I'm so glad that you've mentioned the group coaching because I think not only being coached by an author and mentored is such a valuable thing, but then also finding your peers and finding a community that can kind of help support you as you write a book, because it can be a very lonely thing, especially when you don't know other authors. Um, but critique groups in particular are such a unique part of being an author, and such a valuable thing when you find the right critique group rather, and peer critiques. Can you talk a little bit about, for people who aren't aware of what that process is like, what is it like receiving critique, and what is it like actually doing that for somebody else as well?
So the interesting thing about critique groups, and I hear even some published authors say, "Oh, I don't want anyone to critique me," but that's going to happen, whether you want it to or not. And the lovely thing about critique groups is that it gets to happen before you have that word published. So I had not had great success at finding a critique group. I had joined Pitch Wars when it was around on Twitter, which was just a hashtag and anyone could get on, and they have great material about how to do things. But not every critique is equal. So I wanted people who write historical fiction tend to understand the challenges of writing historical fiction better than people who don't. So that was my number one criteria I had when I signed up for the History Quill. And I also really like on the History Quill, I feel that sometimes critique groups can get in a rut. It is very easy to give your friend a nice critique, right? So the magic of the History Quill is that you do make friends, and you do find people's work that you love, and people find your work that they love. Uh, but also you're not so invested in a friendship that you won't be honest. So what I think is really important about a critique is you learn to read it, take a deep breath, put it away for a little bit, come back to it and see that it's a little bit better than maybe you thought when you first got it. And that's not too different from getting an editor's letter, is it?
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the great thing also about critique groups is it helps you learn what's a good critique, and maybe what's a critique that might have worked for a different book but not for your book. The other thing that's wonderful about the History Quill, and I know many critique groups are like this, there's a monthly deadline. So every month you can submit up to 5,000 words, and if you can do it, and sometimes you learn that you can't, but when you can do it, it's I like working off of goals, and so it makes sure that you keep going, and then you're also giving two critiques in return. So it's a big. I think honestly that it's what helped me with my agent once she and I got together, understand we're talking the same language.
Mhm.
With what she's saying to me about the things that I need to improve, I understand and I agree with. So without that experience, I'm not sure. I think I would have just cast about and maybe signed with the first person that made me an offer, on it. And instead, I think I waited and worked hard and got a good one.
So how do you think, that back and forth with both other authors, but also you have tutors as well, or sort of expert tutors on the coaching program, don't you? How do you think that kind of shaped the final product of your novel? Like, what were the sort of what things came back that you were unexpected that like you know basically helped you craft it to the higher quality?
What's interesting with me, they say to do beta reads, they say to do professional critiques, editor critiques. With my first book that I signed an agent with, I hadn't done any of that. I really didn't understand to do that. So History Quill was my first professional editor critique, and it was great because they are both confirming, they affirm you, they lift you up, and then they're honest. And the great thing about that tutorial critique was that it went all the way through the book. it gave me chapter by chapter what they liked, what they didn't like, gave me their take of where they thought that I should go with the book. I think I had one chapter where my tutor said, "Don't change a single word of this." One chapter, and the funny thing is, the book is very different from what it was when I got that critique, but it helped me see the value in what I was doing. It helped me keep going and say, okay, that I'm onto something here. I'm not there yet. And I want to say about that, a lot of people, I think, throw in the towel too soon. I really believe that writers should invest in themselves and in their writing with time and with the resources that they have. It makes a difference. And once you start getting there, you really can tell, okay, I've turned a corner here. My writing, people are liking it. I'm getting different kind of feedback now. So if I hadn't gone through all of that, I honestly wouldn't feel comfortable even going on sub with this book, because it's such a big idea.
Thanks for watching this clip from the History Quill podcast, all about writing and publishing historical fiction. If you want to find out more about the topics discussed, check the description for a link to the full episode and the episode page on our website, where you can access a range of relevant resources. You can also join our email list to receive new podcast episodes and more content for historical fiction writers. And of course, don't forget to like, subscribe, and switch on notifications.